I get here now, but I'm not sure. I was telling Jeanette, I'm not sure I know how to get home because twice I've gone into daydreaming as I leave here. It's hard not to because it's a nice experience. And I end up on the wrong road. One day I ended up in Sedona and had to drive back through Oak Creek. Great drive. But the last time I ended up in Payson, and that was twice the time getting home. I wasn't really thrilled about that, but I've gone home from Payson many times, so I knew that route too. So once I figured out where I was, I knew where I was going. But this morning, it said the GPS. I was just wanted to know how long it was telling me it would take me to get here, because sometimes it'll account for construction and stuff like that. And it was 8 o'clock. I meant to leave at 8 o'clock because that gets me here about 9 o'clock. I mean, about 10 o'clock, sorry. And I have a half an hour. So that's perfect as far as I'm concerned. It said I'd get here at 11:45. And I went, what? And I looked and I said, are they giving me is it the right address? Yes. From my house to Unity of Verde Valley, 3 hours and X minutes. And I went, no, that's not right. And when I looked at the map, they were taking me through Mesa. I guess they thought I liked going home from Payson and wanted to put me further east. I don't know what the deal was. But anyway, then I get here and there are all these cars in the parking lot. And usually when I get here at 10, Unity people aren't known for getting to church really early. I was worship coordinator at Unity Phoenix for 5 years. I know. You just think nobody's coming, and then the last 5 minutes, whoosh, 800 people walk through the door. And I'm used to that. And I get here and all the cars are out there. And I'm thinking, did they change the start time? Am I just going to come running in the door just as service starts? So when I got here and saw that, no, I was on time and everything was fine. Now I could calm down, and except for not having any batteries at first. And we got through that. Everything's fine. So I'm so happy to be here and happy to know I'm here and that everything's okay. So as always, perfect music. We're all about up today. We're all about the positive path, and that's all about what we're talking about today. So the title of the talk today is What If? What if? That's a loaded 2 words, because how often do we use them? We use them a lot. I mean, since I've been working with these 2 words a lot, I notice how much people use them just in everyday life, a lot. But the question is, how often do we use them in a way that leads us in a positive direction? In her book, What If It All Goes Right? Have any of you read that book? What If It All Goes Right by Mindy Odlin? Tiny little book. We're going to talk about it more at the workshop. What if it all goes right? She says that there are 2 words that hold, these are 2 words that hold within them the power to create and the power to destroy. And we use them every day, whether we know it or not. What if? Our success or our failure depends upon how we make use of the power of these 2 little words. So what if you could create your perfect life right now? Today, I want to share the transformative power of a positive what if and how it can unlock a universe of potential, both personally and professionally. With the exception of the words I am, there are probably no 2 words as powerful as these. And do you wonder why? It's because what if carries with it our hopes and dreams, either framed in a positive or a negative way. And we feel our hopes and dreams. So that's why they're so powerful. Just speaking about them conjure up strong feelings within us. You might remember, and I don't know how you wouldn't, that I'm the one who talks all the time about cultivating mindfulness. And you might be thinking now that this concept of if doesn't seem to fit with living in the present moment. Because when you say if, we're definitely talking about the future. But while in a mindfulness mode, we don't stop using our brain. It's right there with us, and we don't stop thinking. Thinking, after all, is pretty much what the mind is all about. In mindfulness, we learn how our mind works and the way it thinks. And we learn not to engage in thoughts that are always and forever passing through. Whether we think they're good or bad thoughts, they are all encouraged by our ego, which pretty much insists that we grab on and take hold of every one of them. In reality, we're moved from one present moment to another present moment. And as my personal coach always tells me, a thought is just a thought. They only become reality when we engage in some way with them. And if that's an endless loop of fear, worry, regret, a negative emotion, that becomes our reality. And if that's a positive thought, which motivates action for something better in our lives, that becomes our reality. So with each moment comes its share of thoughts, thoughts that we can observe, take note of, and release. The most fulfilling way to do that is to get there on a positive path. So imagine life without what if. Imagine if you couldn't use what if or think what if, or without this simple question, we'd be stuck with the familiar, and our fate would be to always have the expected. Now, I think it might be pretty boring for me if all I ever got was what I expected. Frankly, I hardly ever get what I expect. And I kind of trust that you don't either. That's just life. Things don't tend to work out exactly the way we plan it. Thank goodness, because I wouldn't have gotten half the blessings if they worked out the way I planned them. So, what if is a magical phrase. It sparks our imagination and our creativity. And it makes us look at the possibilities out there and propels us forward. That's why I say it's so connected to mindfulness, because that's exactly what mindfulness puts us in a position to do, to move forward in a positive way. So instead of going to the negative, like, what if it all falls apart? And what if I invest all this time and money and energy and I lose it all? And what if I commit to this one person and in the end, they don't even like me? And why not try the positive instead? What if this is the best thing that ever happened to me? What if I try it and it works better than I ever dreamed it would work? You know, I actually committed to do that for a week. Every time something seemed to be going off, no matter what it was, if it felt big or little, I would say, I'd start to feel the start to build up, and I'd go, what if this is the best thing that ever happened to me? Because isn't it true that so often those things that we think are just horrible, like 2 days later, you go, oh, I'm so glad I didn't do that, or I'm so glad that didn't happen because this happened. Right? So it's just easier if you can just stay in that space, don't grab onto that thought and just say, what if this is the best thing that ever happened to me? Wow, your blood pressure stays low and life is just easier. You feel that, I don't know, I get a chunky thing in my solar plexus when all that happens. I just feel that go away. What if is not only useful in the very present moment, but it also suggests that we can take full advantage of the future and all the possibilities and opportunities that are available in it. What if is just a thought you can acknowledge and let it pass and resurface in another now moment to act upon? It's part of a creative process that lets us momentarily try out a brainstormed idea and release it with the possibility of success when the time is right. What if I apply for that job and it turns out to be the easiest and most productive and fulfilling thing I've ever done? Or what if I let go of that job I don't really want, even though it pays a lot of money, and instantly the right thing comes along? These are just thoughts that plant seeds, and they're all appropriate for a mindful moment. And there's one heads up thing I want to give you about what if. Beware of expectations. So if the more expectations we can eliminate, now that's not easy to do, but the more very specific expectations, and I know what some of you are thinking. Well, when we're talking about manifesting the good things in our life, they tell us to ask for what you really want and be clear and be perfectly clear about what you want. The problem with that is if you are so clear and there's something even better out there than what you're thinking of, you could totally miss it. So that's why we advise you to put that thing out there and then add or something better. Then your what if is really powerful because you've named what it is you'd like to have, but wow, if something better is out there, please give me that instead. I'm just saying, it's always a good idea. Each extremely detailed expectation carries with it the potential to not only disappoint, but to eliminate the truly spectacular thing that you're missing. So let's not do that. Allow for your hopes and dreams by following your I want this with or something better. So I give you two things to practice. What if this is the best thing that ever happened to me? And I'll take this or something better, please. Wouldn't that be cool if you went to a restaurant and said, you know, I'd like to have the spaghetti and meatballs or something better. Oh, I like that idea. I think we'll try it sometime. One thing I've run into a lot in the past few years of my life's journey is the notion that in order to live a happy, long life, we must stay curious. When was the last time that you did something brand new? Or something that challenged you? Or asked that previously unspoken question, I wonder, what if? What if isn't just a question, it's a mindset. It's the child in us, that wide-eyed with wonder, unafraid to ask why, how, and what if things were different. This innate curiosity fuels innovation and imagination. Imagination, one of the 12 powers. I dare you to go to and over your boundaries and limitations by using what if in a positive way. So if you're ready to embrace the what if attitude, I'd like you to consider one more concept, and that is, what if anything is possible? So that seems pretty far-fetched, doesn't it? But why not? I mean, what if anything is possible? I mean, I'm convinced we don't know what we don't know. That seems pretty logical. If we don't know, we don't know it. We don't know it. And we don't know, we don't know it. But I'm convinced that we don't even know what we know. So, I mean, think about this. Because people really thought the world was flat. I mean, it was flat. It was flat to them. Their reality said the world was flat, they went so far, they just fall right off of it. They believed it. It was true until it wasn't. Someday somebody noticed, hey, when I'm out in the ocean, there's nothing but ocean. There's kind of like a curve there. It's not really flat, is it? So I'm thinking there are just lots of things in the world that we don't know yet. I have confidence that we will, but not yet. So why not think anything is possible? And unfortunately, this is anything positive or negative. So I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like some of the things going on in the world today, I wouldn't have thought were possible 10 years ago. And it's jolting for me to have to admit that, of course, it's possible. I just couldn't conceive it. I just couldn't conceive of it happening. So in Unity, we teach our only real limitations are those within. That's as co-creators, we bring about and manifest what we focus on. So if we focus on all the bad and negative things that can happen whenever we set out on a path, then that's pretty much going to dictate what our life is going to look like to us. Just a tip, if you ever start noticing your life isn't going the way you feel like you really want it to, I want you to take a look at what you're focusing on. Are you focusing on what you don't like about it and what you don't want rather than what you do want and head in that direction? Think about it. And why is it? Because all the positive lessons and opportunities are flying by because we're stuck and all wrapped up in all the negative what ifs and obstacles we've created along the way. And then we grab onto those thoughts and fears. We loop them around several different times and several times. Whoops, I knew I'd do that again. See, I knew I'd do it. So I knew that was possible. So, because I obviously talk with my hands. And so we loop all those thoughts around several times in several versions. But on the other hand, there are some pretty simple and practical tools we all have and have used since we were children that are just the opposite of that. And that's our imagination and curiosity. We learned way back there how to have fun with our imaginary friends and made up games. And some of those games they were the beginning of what we became as adults. And I can't impress upon you enough how important it is to keep your sense of curiosity going as long as you live. It's what keeps the world wonderful and beautiful and absolutely amazing. It nurtures a spirit of exploration. It's what fuels scientific breakthroughs, artistic masterpieces, and social revolution. Remember that. And it's what keeps everyday life interesting. And of course, I don't want to overstate the case because we have to understand the power of incremental success and the part that things just not working out the way we wanted them to plays in our successes. What did Thomas Edison say? I didn't fail 10,000 times. I learned 10,000 times and got closer to what I was trying to do. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what our life is like. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of impossible things I've personally run into in my life. So the first one, I always have my antenna out because I know this will come as a surprise to you, but I'm getting older. And I have been my whole life. So it's not a surprise to me. But my antenna is always out because, frankly, I say this all the time. It's the truth. I have absolutely no relationship to the number of my age. The number, it means very little to me. And I joke a lot and say I'm going to live to be 130. And more, that's not so funny because all the cell regeneration and everything they're doing, people are starting to go, I mean, they're doing it now instead of just me, and they think I'm crazy. They're going, even my cardiologist who I said that to one time. He says, well, that's impossible. And I said, no, that's a different perspective. And I just saw him the other day and he says, you know, we're going to live a lot longer. You're doing great. I said, I know. So, so I always have my antenna out for these things that they're doing on the aging process, which they're realizing now isn't a process, it's an expectation, and we're treating symptoms instead of the original reasons why we get there. What a surprise. So anyway, I've been watching all of that, and all the gene therapy and all of those things are just fascinating to me. And it reminds me of Charles Fillmore, who said this all along. You know, I mean, way back then, he thought he was going to he thought he was going to live forever, but he, you know, 130, was nothing to him. But he had the idea, he had that idea that we really are talking about now with the whole DNA thing. So just in the last week, I read an article from the Harvard Gazette about a new gene therapy. And this is Harvard. So I know it's hard to trust anything, but I looked at it several times and made sure I was really looking at the Harvard Gazette. And I know I was, and I know this is really a research. And they have been using this new gene therapy approach that they've given to 5 children who were born deaf. It was a genetic problem. And the method which overcomes a roadblock presented, I'm going to just read this because I don't want to misquote any of it, because it's science, and heaven forbid I start a rumor or a conspiracy theory. So, so the method which overcomes a roadblock presented by large genes may be useful in other treatments, according to the researchers. Other treatments might use. The work was conducted at Sedona. I didn't even know there was a Sedona, China. There's a Sedona, China, by a team co-led by scientists at the Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary and Harvard Medical School. One of the few medical articles I'll ever read is from Harvard Medical School. The collaborators at Sedona University's Eye and ENT Hospital treated 6 children aged 1 to 7 who were suffering from an inherited mutation of the particular gene which manufactures a protein important in transmitting signals from the ear to the brain. 5 of the 6 children showed improvement in hearing over the 26-week trial. That's a pretty short time to go from not hearing anything to hearing, with 4 outcomes described by the researchers as robust. That's a scientific term. With hearing a critical factor in language acquisition, researchers also measured speech perception and the ability to recognize sound as speech. And all 5 of those who responded to treatment showed improvement there. So they noted in there, and I didn't put this down, but the parents were just in tears when they called their child and they turned around and heard them. You can imagine. You can imagine. And so the project, done in December 2022, was the first to make use of gene therapy to treat this condition. But several studies in various stages are targeting the same condition. Chin said that that will hopefully accelerate work that, though it has taken years to reach this point, has recently seen rapid progress. Impossible, right? So, I mean, all kinds of articles are out there right now about gene therapy for cancer, for aging, for all kinds of areas, and I just find it so exciting. So shoot your little antenna up if you want some wowie stuff. It's really fun to read. So what if 5 years from now, we heard that with gene therapy, studying the DNA, we could all live to be at least 150 years old. I've watched a few documentaries about blue zones, which are the zones where people normally live to be over 100, and they're just working on what are the reasons why. Some of them are very logical. So the research is saying that there's nothing in the DNA that says that we should get sick and die when we're between 75 and 80, which is kind of what they're telling us right now. And I'm 78, so I'm thinking, I don't think so. But I mean, anything can happen. We don't know when that is, and we don't know how it's going to happen. But I mean, you know what I mean? If I stay healthy and keep working on me the way I have been and feeling as good as I do right now, I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm thinking I'm living longer than 80 or so. So, but who knows? I mean, I'm okay, whatever. But it's just interesting. So what if 5 years from now, we heard that with DNA therapy, we could all live to be at least 150 years old? What if we started today to take care of our bodies, eat healthy food, and commit to a moderate amount? That's all they're saying we need, a moderate amount of movement. It doesn't even have to be a routine. It can just be movement each day, preparing our bodies for a longer, healthier, and happier life. What if we all realize that as long as we're here, we have stuff to do? Wouldn't that be reason enough to look to the bright side and consider what it would be like if we used our collective minds to create the best world and life possible? What if? So that was my first example of something that seemed pretty impossible. And the second one is about a serious automobile accident. So in 2006, a small Nissan truck was hit on the 2-lane road that goes to the Verde nuclear plant near Tonopah, Arizona. It was shift change time at 6 a.m. and the small truck was hit by one of the many semi-trucks that use that road during rush hour. It hit the driver's side of the vehicle and tore off the driver's side door in the process, leaving the driver jammed in the cab, having to be cut out of the vehicle. Pictures taken by observers showed a pickup that looked like crumpled up aluminum foil. And I can only imagine that people driving by that vehicle must have thought, no one survived that. The semi driver and the truck pickup driver both survived. The semi driver had minimal injuries and was back on the job in a couple of days. The pickup driver had a fractured neck in the most troubling place possible, 4 broken ribs, a collapsed lung, and spinal nerve damage, but recovered in about 5 months with minimal ongoing issues. They included a curvature of the spine and loss of 2.5 inches in height, as well as neuropathy in feet and legs, and occasional sciatica. All conditions that are adaptable to normal life. I'm very familiar with this story because the pickup driver was me. And I have often thought that anyone who observed those results would think that no one would have survived that. But I did. And when I woke up out there on the road inside the crumpled up truck, I didn't and never have remembered the crash itself. Thank God. But I immediately thought to myself, I've been saved from something for something. And while recovering in the ICU, while on such powerful painkillers that it was difficult to find a place of any lucidity. And I'm the person who really never wanted to be high or drunk. I just wanted to be in control. So that was a horrible state for me to be in from my perspective. But I looked for my inner healing place, which I had believed in for many years, that we all have an inner healing place. And I told myself that my only job at that present moment was to heal, get well, and whole again. So I found that healing place, that direct connection to God and God's gift of restoration. And it was for a while the only thing that seemed real to me as I made my way out of the fog of my war with pain. And I have to say, in retrospect, all of my friends and relatives told me when they came to see me, they thought I was dying. It never occurred to me that I was dying. It never occurred to me. From the moment I woke up, I was so shocked to hear them say that. And then I saw some pictures. A couple of them took me in the hospital. And I was like, oh, wow, no wonder you thought that. Whoa. So the truck and I had a lot in common. I mean, I looked bad. I mean, bad. Of course, you could see me on a day now without my makeup and you probably think the same thing. But anyway, I did find that healing place. I got out of that fog. And when they told me to walk around the nurse's station, I'd walk 4 or 5 times. They'd have to stop me and they'd say, go to the end of the hall. And I'd walk back 3 or 4 times and they'd have to catch me and send me back to bed. And when they told me I could go home, I said, well, am I really ready? I live on the second floor condo. And they said, you can walk down the stairs. And so I walked 2 floors down, 2 floors back up, and then I walked out of the hospital. And it took 5 months to completely recover. I slept sitting up on the couch with a hard brace on my neck, top 2 vertebra. It scared me to death to have that because that's the place where you're totally paralyzed. They said it was the worst possible place, but not the most serious damage they'd ever seen. Of course, obviously, because everything's still going. So, but it was scary to me. I spent that 5 months thinking, what if I move the wrong way? Or, what if I'm about to lose my mind again? What if I do the wrong thing and my head falls off? I mean, we kind of think some weird things sometimes when we're not feeling whole. And so during that, the most important thing I think that happened during that time was while I was recuperating, I resigned from the job that took me out there to that place where I had that accident, because I had taken that job for the first time in my life. I took a job only for money. It paid a ton of money for a not very fun job. And it was a contract job, and it paid so much money that I could actually take the pieces I liked. There were a couple of pieces that were okay, and I could subcontract the rest of it and still made a lot of money. And I had been thinking for a while, I know there's money and it's fun having money, but this isn't me. I don't enjoy this. I'm not serving. I don't feel like I'm serving a little bit, but I don't really feel like I'm serving like I should be. I don't feel like I'm doing the kind of things I should be doing. And I wasn't using a lot of my skills and talents. So it was just not good. So while I had nothing to do but think during that 5 months, pretty much, I turned in my resignation, not having a clue what was next. Again, all I knew was that I had been saved from something for something. And I told God that I never had to be shaken up again to move. Like from now on, just tell me when it's time to go and I will go no matter what. And I've done that, much to the chagrin of friends and relatives who see me walk out not knowing what's happening and going, how can you do this? And then taking jobs that pay almost nothing. How can you do this? Because it's what I'm supposed to be doing. So the piece of this that I really want to point out is that whenever I tell anyone the story, or if I even say that I was hit by a semi truck and the door beside me was just yanked off, left a great big, I could show you my battle scars, great big scar here where the door scraped me as it went by. And I never even felt that. Everything else hurt so much that was healed by the time, by the time that was even an issue. But they'll just look at me and go, how are you here? And I go, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But all I know is I'm supposed to be here. And I was supposed to come through that. And that thing that seemed impossible left me with no chronic pain symptoms. Yes, there are a few issues. If I have a few problems, if I sit too long or don't move enough, pains will come up. I still get bouts of sciatica. I sit at the computer too long, those kinds of things. But they're all manageable. They're not things that 50 other people I know have, just living a regular life and not getting hit by a semi. So I'm good. So the impossible happened that day. And then another aside, people ask me a lot of times, were there angels there? Well, I always think, well, of course, but I think I always before believed my angels were invisible, my guardian angels. But when I woke up, there was one, remember, I didn't know what happened. So I didn't know what my injuries might be or anything. I mean, I knew I was injured, but I was pretty out of it. There was a woman in scrubs holding my neck. Very important right then. And there was a man who was saying things to me like, Betty, you're going to be fine. Don't worry. Everything's good. You're going to be fine. They're coming really soon. It's fine. But the thing is, I didn't know him, and I don't know how he knew my name. Because my ID, they didn't find it for months. It was hidden in my glove compartment, and they didn't even know who I was until noon, when they finally heard from the people I was working for who missed me, and they tracked down the accident, and then everybody knew who I was then. But I was out of it. I couldn't contact anybody. From the time I got to the hospital, I was gone for about a day, in and out of consciousness. So I don't know where he came from. He was dressed professionally. I thought, at the time, I remember thinking, he probably works at the nuclear plant in management or something. He looked very professional and like he was either coming or going. I don't know. I was in a fog, but I mean, I find that interesting. That's another impossibility. So that's my impossible story. And I know that there are all kinds of impossible things out there for all of us, wonderful things. And what if we open up wholeheartedly to those things? What if it all goes right? What if it does all go right? What if it turns out okay? What if there are things out there waiting for me that I can't even imagine, waiting for you that you can't even imagine? And if we sit here and look for all the things that might go wrong, we'll miss them. So what if we make the best life possible? And what if we were open? What if we make that investment of time, money, and talent, and it just brings back the most wonderful things in our life? So that's the message today about what if. And if you want more and would like to learn how to use what if in a very practical, everyday kind of way, hang around for the workshop and we'll show you how to do a really fun thing that will help you do that in many different ways. 10 people have already signed up, but we have room, we have chairs, right? It's not going to take much for you to stay if you want to, and we'd be happy to have you. So now, looking at our lives as if everything is going to work out, everything is going to go right, everything happens for us, not to us, and how we can put ourselves in a perfect mental place, let's go into a state of meditation. So I want you to take a deep breath, close your eyes, and exhale. Once again, breathe and exhale. What if you noticed that every day is a new day? What if you noticed that every moment is the only moment that exists? What if you noticed that this moment is the only moment that matters? What if you choose to be happy here and now? What if this moment of connection with yourself is all you need to create a new beginning? What if this moment of connection with yourself is all you need to create a new life? Take a deep breath and exhale. Again, a deep breath and exhale. Feel your feet on the floor, grounded. Feel the seat beneath you. Know that you're supported, not only by the chair you're in, but by everyone in this room, by the universe. Whatever your what if is supported. So make it a positive one. And we come here today to join together all of our energy, all of our gratitude, all of our love, all the peace that we carry within our hearts, not only to the people in this room, the people outside of this building, the people in Cottonwood, the people in Arizona, all those in places that are involved in war, involved in natural disasters, all those with concerns we can't even imagine. We share our love, our energy for peace, our compassion with all of them. We pray for our leaders. We pray that they get in touch with their inner core, with their compassion, with their peace, with all the things we come into this world with, and we spend all of our lives remembering who we really are. We send love and blessings to all of them, no matter what they're telling us, no matter what actions they're taking. We love them as a child of God who has the capacity for compassion, and we call it out. We're grateful for those around us who support us every day, for those here in this church, for our loved ones and friends. And we pray for those who don't support us, those who stress us, those who challenge us to be better people. to learn the lessons that come from the challenges of relationship. We send our love and compassion to them. And most of all, we send our compassion to ourselves. We forgive ourselves, knowing that we're not perfect, knowing that we're human, having a human experience, but that we are spiritual beings. And we embrace that part of us that contains the rest of us and not the other way around. We open our hearts, our minds, and our souls to the very best we can be. And we welcome it into our lives. And so it is. Amen.